right, so we had a kind of pretty typical day today. The stock market as a whole was up 1%, and the portfolio we had today went up 5%. And I'll talk a little bit about this after hours decline, but there's not really much here. Um, but we will talk about that. So let's open up another tab here. So overall, big movers of the day. We'll just talk about some of these. Some of them, it's little fool's gold. Some of them have some fundamentals behind them. And we'll just talk about kind of where the strategy is and kind of do our normal thing. But I have one other thing I want to talk about as well. So first thing we're going to talk about today is Latin American Airlines. This one was the big winner of the day. Well, it's actually up 37%. It was up like 50 earlier. And you're thinking, oh, this is really great. You know, this stock Matt should have bought, right? And he missed it because he doesn't have any holdings in it. Well, that's what I thought too at first. And even after hours, we see some movement on here. So it's up about 45%. But the problem is this airline filed for bankruptcy right here. And I was looking, and again, I'm not the expert in the stock market or anything. I just know how to manage recessions and crises and make money off of that. So what I found out was that since the company is a foreign company and they're not registered in the U.S., they basically have a bank issue what are called ADRs, which are something depository receipts. And basically what you do is you're not trading a stock per se, you're trading the ADR, which is listed on the exchange. And so what happened is they decided that this is a Brazilian airline, and they wanted to file for bankruptcy, but they didn't want to do it in Brazil because the CEO said they didn't think they would make it out. So they thought that basically that Brazil would shut them down. So they filed for bankruptcy in the United States. And so when you file a Chapter 11, which is a business reorganization bankruptcy, then what happens to the shareholders is basically, the stock gets delisted. They throw a little Q on the end right here. So it'll be LTMQ. And you have to wait for the bankruptcy to go through, and then, kind of whatever the stock is worth at that point, it's worth. But you're kind of frozen out of the market at that point. So you're stuck, hence the big sell-off right here. And so it was going down, down, down as people were selling more of their stock. But what happened is people were actually shorting the stock as well. And maybe they shorted it over here. I can't tell you when they shorted it, but they shorted it. And what you see over the last day is they don't necessarily know. There's not a ton of people. There's no reason for it to go up. I mean, the stock is going to get delisted. But there's a lot of people thinking, okay, because they sold their shorts and took their payout right here, that's why the stock went up. And for those who aren't as familiar, what it means is when you short a stock, it means you borrow a stock from somebody. Somebody lets you borrow their stock, and then you sell it immediately. So you basically are in the hole at a high price for what you sold it for, and then you're hoping the stock goes down so that, let's say you have 100 shares at $100 a share, that's $10,000, and you sell it for that. You're shorting it. If it goes down to $10 a share, then basically you buy the share back for $10 times 100, that's 1,000. And so you made 10,000, you paid 1,000 back, and you made 9,000 on the share. And so basically, in order to actually make money off shorting a stock, you have to actually buy the stock back at the lower price. And so that's kind of what they're thinking here, is that you're seeing a lot of buys here because people are clearing out their short position. But this stock is going to get delisted. So I'm not really sure if there's any other reason, but that's kind of the main reason that I saw there. So all right, PVAC. This is our Penn Virginia oil company. They basically do exploration, development, and production of crude oil, natural gas, and natural gas liquids and natural gas. And this one, with basically long and short of it, the more demand there is, the more need for oil, and the whole industry bumps up in activity. So you start to see, as the economy reopens, you're going to see the price go up. So one of the things I noticed as well, looking at stocks yesterday, we didn't have a video yesterday because there wasn't really much going on. And I want to make sure these videos are tangible and valuable for you, is that the sector of, it's interesting, the big stocks that moved up yesterday, they weren't like huge moves, but there was a consistent pattern where they moved up, where you had oil carrier stocks move up. And I'm thinking that's interesting because you have all this oil that had been stored And now you have these people whose stocks are going up who are moving it, trucks and pipelines and everything like that, who are moving the oil. So that means there's orders being sent by end users, which means demand is going up, which means the price of oil is going to go up, which means they're going to want to send more. So that's one of the reasons why you see this moved in the last month. It's gone up 86%. In the last week, it's gone up 26%, and today it went up 16%. So let me just check 1058. Yeah, okay, good. All right. Bremer Resorts, this is the casino company. Again, this went up again. Demand goes up. People want to get out. People love their gambling. So we're going to see that demand go up as well. In the last month, it's gone up 28%. You can see the trend line is right about there. In the week, it's gone up 7%. So again, the trend line splits these right there. And the last day, it's gone up 8%. So this one is I think our market leader, we'll look when we get to our chart, but we're at 183% gain, which is close to tripling our money. And the only thing I'm mad about is that I really didn't invest a whole lot of money in this one. It would have been really nice if I had like $3,000 invested in this, because then I would be sitting here with close to a $10,000 gain. So my bad. All right. So Azul Airlines, this one is interesting because this one is a little bit affected by Latin American Airlines in the sense that Latin American Airlines is not going to get bailed out, but Azul already has a debt agreement has a bailout agreement with Brazil. Now, the reason that Latin American didn't, and I was reading about this today, is because basically they basically were told you have to file bankruptcy and then we'll talk. And so they're not getting bailout money until they go through bankruptcy, where Azul doesn't have anywhere near the debt load that Latin American Airlines has. And so they're actually, in the near future, they had actually right here been told by the Brazilian government that they're getting a bailout or an assistance package, whatever you want to call it. It's not as much as they want. I think it was like half of what they wanted, but you saw the stock go up at that point. And they do a lot of freight shipping as well, especially lately. So with them, they went up in the last month 16%, in the last week 14%, and today, which was most of their gain, was close to 15%. So they were negative for a little bit, but they're now up 17%. But we'll look at that on our chart. All right, now the notable one today that really affected us, and you'll see on this, is Every. This is the casino ATM and transaction, electronic financial transaction company. And so they had an earnings report come out, or an earnings call today, and so people were expecting it to go up. They were really hopeful. They're like me. And then they reported a really terrible earnings per share. But the problem is there was nobody open. I mean, I'm surprised they had any earnings. Maybe it was like 10 cents a share or whatever, but I'm not even sure how you got that with the casinos closed. So it reminded me of the CEO. It was on Fox Business, CEO of AMC, and the lady was like, the interviewer was saying, there was a 97% drop in revenue. And he says, really? She said, yeah. She goes, well, who was the other three? How did they get any revenue? We're all closed. So that's kind of the thing with them. But immediately I was going to buy this. As soon as it went down to $6, I was like getting ready to buy it. And then immediately it popped back up to $6.43 and to $6.49, which is right about where it was before the earnings call. So this returned to normal. So this was a buying opportunity. If I was a little quicker on the trigger, that I could have gotten it. And it reflects when we look at the after hours. Pretty much the after hours numbers are just basically affected primarily off of this particular stock. So this one will appear back to normal. Currently have a market value of 10 grand on it, invested 7 grand, so I'm up 3 grand. But this one, tomorrow, I think tomorrow or Friday, can't remember which one, most of the casinos in Las Vegas are opening. So this one, we expect them to have a massive second and third quarter. But we're expecting the stock to explode at some point or another. And again, this is a 100% buy. So I'm not a registered agent. I'm not going to tell you what to buy, but I'm just telling you I love this one. And again, I really wish on this price dip I would have been faster on my fingers to get a hold of this stock. So, all right. So with that being said, our current our current value of our overall portfolio is 52,000. One thing I also did do is I added $3,000 from the outside. I'd been talking about doing that for a while. And I think today was the day to at least get started on that. I may put more in going in, but we had a 5% gain before during the session, and this was like it was like 5.5 after because of that big every drop. But it's now just half a point, and I expect that to actually be in positive territory before after hours closes. All right, so that being said, let me take a look at something. Bum, bum, bum. All right, big movers that they're showing here. I guess I don't really ever always show this, but big movers that we're looking at today. Precigen went up 68%. I'm guessing with a name like that, it's a biotech company. Let's take a look at this guy. Biotech company, exactly. So these could pop at any time. You don't really know when. So I'm just gonna. They can go up and down, but you never know. They're not. There's no subtlety with these companies at all. Latin American Airlines, we talked about them already. Sasol, I'm following. They went up 21%. They're an oil exploration company. 20% buy, but they went up 20%. Again, just increased demand. Oil States International increased. Gold, this is an airline. This is a South American airline. Went up. My guess is they're probably getting some assistance from the government. And let's see, is there anybody else? Let's see, let's talk about the downers today. Anybody else that we have? Yeah, nothing that we're looking at went down today, which really doesn't surprise me. All right, so that being said, updated prices. Yuko is getting close to breaking even, which is awesome because then it's not going to stop there. I mean, this has got a massive upside. We bought it really, really, really low, and we're going to make a lot of money off this. Usual suspects, IVR and MFA are still up there. MFA, their stock went up a little bit today just because they announced that they basically got to defer some of their repurchase obligations. And basically what it means is they buy short-term oil futures and then they sell them for a profit and invest in long-term oil futures, which are usually less money, and then they sell that, and then they're kind of basically just going month to month to month to month, and they got a deferral because they weren't able to make the payment that they needed to make before, and they did it for the third time. So a very, very light bit of good news, but it's short-term good news, which really to me doesn't mean anything. So these we're going to completely hold off on. These we have good positions on. Dave & Buster's, maybe if we see them have a bad day, then maybe we'll take a look at them again, because they're getting better results than I thought they would get. Viad, which is basically a travel company. They used to be Greyhound, but they do a lot more now, so maybe, but they don't have a buy recommendation on Robinhood. But overall, it is a good company, so I have that in light green, so that's a maybe. Beyond that, what I was really looking at was over-under. I wanted to find a low number here. So Azul came up, but we already are good on airlines. 2 came up, but we just made a purchase on them. And as we go down to like the 2s, as far as the over-under here, we're not really seeing a low number here. So I decided, all right, the only thing that we're going to do is we are going to, I noticed that Therapeutics MD, which we just bought, which has a great target price of 7.25 and over-under for the target price of 6.3, basically went down to 0. And I'm like, this sucker has an 88% buy rating, and it looks awesome on all the analyst ratings on the different websites I look at. So we put in another order of 1,700 at 115, and it filled. And actually it's weird because it said 118, but somebody bought it. So we just added another 1,900 or 1,700 shares. And so what we're looking at here basically is they have, go here. So their target price, 7.25 minus the price it's at right now that I bought it for is that amount. That's the stock price appreciation that they're expecting based on the target price. And then we're sitting at, come on, get in there. We're sitting at 2,600 shares. So that's an anticipated profit of $16,000 off this. So, and this is a company with an 88% buy rating, which, by the way, we need to update this over here. So that's just stealing money. So with that being said, it was a great one. So we added that right there. And I also, because Flexion basically was way over the buy price we had, I just let's just not waste it. Let's not waste any more time on this at all. And let's get rid of it. And I'm not really sure why United or American fell off here. I was probably doing some editing and booted it. It's my guess. So I'll add them back in. So that being said, all right, so let's take a look at our projections. And then we'll take a look at futures for the next day and finish up with one more thing. So overall, we are sitting with a current profit off of our current portfolio of 20 grand. Overall profit, and this includes the $3,000 that's sitting as a denominator weighing down the ratio, is about 81. It was up in the high 90s before, so 81, 82%. And we are looking at, let's see, an estimated final amount of about 269,000, which is about 568% profit. So with that being said, I never get into like social stuff, but I will just tell you this. Let's get a little personal. I grew up in the city of Cleveland, and I saw a lot of the stuff we've seen with George Floyd right now. I posted on Facebook, and my mom thought it was funny how I said him as an obvious white dude. My mom thought that was funny. As an obvious white dude, I said most of my friends were black, and I saw a lot of the stuff that happened with George Floyd firsthand. I did, and it blew me. First time I saw it, it blew me away. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And my friends all looked at me like, kind of the look on their face of like, Matt, we see this all the time. This is old news. This isn't shocking. We kind of come to expect it at this point. And it floors me. And it's not a political thing. It's a human rights thing. It's an American thing. Nobody should treat another person like that. And no community should ever have to have the threat of that weighing on them, where the parents are scared to let their kids go out. And it's not because they're going to get mugged or hit by a car or something, but it's the cops. And when it happens, I can tell you, looking at my friends' faces, the rage that's inside of them because they feel powerless. And it sucks. And there's good and bad people on both sides, fair enough. But I will tell you this whole this whole notion of a few bad apples is a joke. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, of all the videos you see where a police officer beats up somebody, right? I mean, not arrest them, but like goes out of the way to beat them up to a point where it's illegal, it's a human rights thing. Have you ever seen, I asked my wife this, I'm like, have you ever seen one of those videos where one of the fellow cops jumps in and intervenes and basically stops him from doing it? And she's like, I've never seen that. And my wife came from like suburbia, so like she wouldn't have seen that anyway. But I was like, have you ever seen a video of that? She's like, no. I'm like, exactly. So you have 4 to 5, and if I remember right, there were 5 cops participating in the arrest of George Floyd, and you know how many intervened? 0. So if there's a few bad apples, apparently they're all in the same place at the same time. No, that's not true. Things need to change. One, and feel free to, if you agree with this, spread on social media. If you disagree, then let me know. Number one, you need to end qualified immunity, which means that the police officers, basically, they can break the law and do whatever they want to you, and then they're not, for the most part, not able to be prosecuted unless it's really, really ugly and severe, which needs to end. Number two, any civilian complaints against the police officers shouldn't be reviewed by fellow police officers in the internal affairs unit. It should be handled by the residents of the area where it occurred. I mean, point blank, or even the residents of the area, even where the person lives. Number three, it's the police officers need to, I would just say this, the police officers need to stand out and step out. That's what I was going to say. Number three is you need to have it. I know, for example, where I grew up, there's police officers who are police officers in the city where I live and where I grew up, and they don't live there. And there's police officers in the city, or there's police officers that are police officers in other areas, but they live in the city where I was, and that just is not cool. Like, if you had police officers and they were all the people that like you went to high school with, this George Floyd thing would not have occurred. It just wouldn't have occurred at all. So I think when they're hiring police officers, they need to be from the area. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. You have to have some compassion for your fellow citizens. And if you don't feel like they're fellow citizens, then things like this could happen. And then the last thing what I was trying to remember was in court, when you have a police officer testify, in court, in the legal system, he's what's referred to as an unbiased observer, meaning that the court will automatically take his word and assume it's true unless you prove it's false. And that's a privilege that nobody else in our community has. Nobody has it. You don't have it. I don't have it. And to be fair, they don't deserve it. They should be treated just like we are. And if he says that something happened, and unless you have proof that it didn't, he's assumed to be telling the truth. And had George Floyd not been videotaped by a couple really, really smart and responsible and quick-thinking people on the street of Minneapolis, then none of this would have happened. Like, nobody would care about this. They wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't know it. You'd never know his name, and it would continue to go on. So it's not about politics. I'm not a lefty or a righty. I'm a people-y. And having seen this face to face, having seen it with my own two eyes, having police officers put guns in my face because I'm hanging out with the wrong people, when we were sitting and playing video games at my friend's house, that was just one of them, among many, many others. This needs to stop. Enough is enough, and we can't let this go by. We need to have some things happen. So instead of being mad and angry, and which is really hard not to be, right? We need to start thinking about solutions and think about implementing solutions. So you saw my four: end qualified immunity and the unbiased observer, have any citizens' complaints handled by the community, and the police officers need to live and pretty much grow up in the area that they're serving. And realistically, they also need to stop hiring people who are in the military, because community policing and military are two completely different things. If you're in the military and you see a terrorist or a soldier of another country, how you handle the interaction is going to be completely different than how you handle somebody in your community. So those are my recommendations. I want to see this end, but more than anything, I want to see these things change. Unless you've been there and unless you've seen it, you don't understand what it's like and the toll it takes on people. And when you wonder why people are so mad, you don't really understand. And I'm a white guy, so I can't fully understand, but I had a window enough to see it. So with that being said, part of the reason why I'm doing this whole stock thing is it's not because I'm a registered investment advisor. I'm not. I have no registration whatsoever. I just am really good at making money when crises hit, and I want to help you. And we need to do that for our fellow citizens and for the black community, particularly in those in poor neighborhoods. And it's really an economic thing more than a race thing. We need to make sure that there is strict accountability for anybody that messes with our fellow citizens. You know, if a cop punches you in the face and you punch him back, you go to jail and he doesn't. That's incredibly stupid, and it needs to end. So think of some solutions in your area. I came up with 4 myself. Maybe you come up with some different ones yourself. Make them known. Go on social media. Contribute to the conversation. But we need to have this change. There are people out here, our brothers and sisters who you've never met before, that you can make a difference of. And if you think it's just one voice, I heard somebody else saying, like, yeah, what's somebody, they were talking about a CEO and their company never spoke out about it. And the guy's like, well, what's he supposed to do? It's one voice. What's he going to do? One voice inspires another voice, inspires another voice, inspires another voice. So let's do this. Let's look out for our fellow citizens. Let's make a change today. And with that being said, be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, and of course, we got to end on the Dow futures. While we look forward, we always end this looking forward, and I'm an optimist at heart, so I believe this can be done, but we all need to stand up for each other. All right, this is after hours, so I'm not really sure where this stands. Let me take a look. All right, so this might be an after hours number. I don't trust that, although it's 0.1, zero point 0.1. These are all like about 1%. So if that's the case, we're in for a big day tomorrow. Um, but these are all flat, which at this time of day, it's 2:30 Pacific time right now. Those seem about normal. So again, we'll look at it later on tonight, see which one, how it looks, and we'll make some decisions. But overall, I think we're in a really good spot. And at this point, really the only thing that I'm looking to do is take a look. Let's go to the only thing that I'm really looking to do, and I was doing this today. Yep, we're almost at breaking even from that everything. Is take a look at this, and I want to just look at the red ones and see if there's any big drops. So, all right, so that one went down 7, but we're good in that. But particularly any ones that we don't have any on there, because we look at the upside, and it's really easy for us to just focus on the top ones up here. But there's some up here that we need to be cognizant for a jump. And the only way that we know if, let's say, Red Rock Resorts jumps up here is we're looking for a negative day. And so with that being said, we have a 5% for SeaWorld. And is there anything else? Probably not. Nope. So that's what we'll look at tomorrow. If we see anything that takes a dip of something that we look at quality, and this is the reason why we put all these crazy color code and ratings in here so that we know what we're looking for and how to evaluate it. So with that being said, let's make a difference in your finances, but make a difference in the people around you. Again, there's brothers that you've never met before that need you to stick up for them. And as it was well said earlier today, it's not up to the black community to fix this problem. They've been trying for God knows how long. It's up for us to stick up for them. And we can't leave room for any of this evil that just destroys people's mentality and moral and everything like that. We need to stick up for them. So make a difference in your community today. People are probably down. I'm a little down today. And, do what you can to cheer people up. Send them a message. Tell people you love them. And I don't know. We'll go there. But we're all in this, we may not... But as we go in, we're all in the same boat. Let's row in the same direction, and let's make a difference today. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.